Apple's 2023 WWDC event just finished streaming, and there's some stuff in there that I really want to talk to you guys about. To give you some context, some of the releases we got last year was iOS getting a new lock screen feature, Apple CarPlay getting some new features where it could stretch to different screen sizes, watchOS getting some automatic activity detecting features, but the big highlight of that event was the release of the M2 chip. Apple drove it home by putting that M2 chip inside of the all-new MacBook Air design. It looked absolutely beautiful, and along with the release of macOS Ventura, people's minds were blown, to say the least. In fact, according to Apple, that laptop is now the world's best-selling laptop. This year, we've been expecting that M1 MacBook Air to get an upgrade to a 15-inch screen, and we've been expecting the M2 to find its way into even more computers in the Mac lineup. That's what we were expecting though. Let's see what Apple gave us. Well, the leaks were of course correct. We did get an Apple MacBook Air with a 15.3-inch Liquid Retina display, 500 nits of brightness, 1080p camera, and 6 speakers for some nice immersive audio. They then went and compared it to an Intel laptop, which doesn't make sense. Like, I understand that selling it in that way worked really well for the M1 because there were leaps and bounds made in performance and efficiency, but for the M2, I don't understand why that's the selling point. It did seem very much like Apple was trying to convert existing PC users into MacBook users. And after watching some of that stuff, if I was a PC user, I would definitely be tempted. We also got exactly what we expected for the M2 chip. A new M2 Ultra chip was released, which is now double as strong as the M2 Max, which just feels absolutely insane to me. They went and threw that into the Mac Studio, which is really, really cool. But one announcement that happened that none of us were expecting was they put that chip into the Mac Pro. I guarantee you, Marques Brownlee is crying tears of joy right now. To give you some idea of what we can expect from that chip, regardless of whether it's in the Mac Studio or the Mac Pro, listen to these numbers. It doubles the performance of the M2 Max. It has a 76-core GPU and is capable of hosting 192 gigabytes of unified memory. It's capable of running 22 streams of 8K video all at the same time, and it can output 8K 240Hz to 6 Pro Display XDRs at the same time. It's ridiculous. That's basically going to be the strongest personal computer you can get. And it doesn't stop there. In the Mac Pro, there are going to be 6 PCIe Gen 4 slots. Because of that, you can just expand the functionality so much, it's insane. Don't get too excited though, it costs $7,000 without any upgrades. One thing that is really cool though is that Apple has now finally completed their Silicon family. The lineup looks absolutely beautiful and I just love where it's gone. iOS now has contact posters, you can leave messages on FaceTime, and in iMessage you can swipe to reply, which is a feature that WhatsApp has had for years now, so don't know why it only came to Apple now. But they did announce some really cool features like name drop, where you can hold your phone up to someone else's phone and select what contact details of your own that you want to share with that person. Some other cool things is the release of a new app called Apple Journal, so you can do some journaling. Standby mode, which essentially turns your phone into an alarm clock. We no longer have to say, "Hey Siri," we just have to say, "Siri." So all in all, some really cool features, but for me with my iPhone 11, not many of them are applicable. iPadOS also got some really cool new features. For years and years, Apple has been making the iPad more and more laptop-like by allowing the use of mice, keyboards, some desktop apps now like Final Cut and Logic Pro. So it was pretty cool to see that some of the features that they announced for the iPad were very tablet-focused features. They've added the Health app to iPads now. Working with PDFs and signing documents is really easy, and they've added some new notes and freeform features, which is really cool. But one of the coolest things that they did on the iPad was they allowed widgets to be interactive, which is really nice. It means that you don't have to open apps to interact with them. And I think that's great because that is the direction that technology has been moving in for quite a while. If you look at things like ChatGPT, we want to ask a question and get an answer. And this just brings us closer to that because we don't have to open apps to interact with them. So when the apps become controllable via voice, via gestures, however we do it, it is really nice knowing that the functionality of communicating with these apps without opening them is already there. A little bit of future-proofing that I like. They also released the all-new macOS Sonoma, which is a cool name, I guess. It's cool. It came with some great features actually. So we can now use widgets on the Apple desktop, which is very, very nice. And just so that they aren't too distracting, when you open an app, it actually dims the widgets, matches the colors of the screen, and it's a really seamless experience. Like, what else would you expect from Apple? They've also tried to drive home gaming on an Apple device again, which I don't know if that will ever work out, but there were some promising things said about the new game porting toolkit, which makes it easier for game developers to get their games working on Mac devices. So hopefully with this toolkit, more developers will just port their games to Mac so that you can play it on your Mac as well. But let's talk about the real reason you're watching this video. Just like the M2 was the big announcement for last event, Apple Vision Pro is the big announcement for this event. It honestly looks like a headset out of the iRobot movie, and I cannot describe to you how excited I am for this headset. It allows you to see and interact with stuff like it's in the space with you. It's controlled by your voice, looking around, and gestures with your hands. They've basically given you a 4K screen for each eye, a sound system that matches the sound of your room to fully convince your brain that sound is coming from different locations in the room, and an all-new chip that makes sure that the latency is low enough that your brain stays convinced that entire time. It's running the M2 to ensure that it performs really, really well in the 3D space, but it's running the R1 chip to make sure that everything happens quick enough for your brain to stay in the zone. So all of this is powered by Vision OS, which looks like something out of a sci-fi film. The elements float in the room in front of you, and they change based on the light around them. They even cast shadows on other objects in the room to increase immersion. Some cool things to know is that it works with a regular mouse and keyboard, and in classic Apple fashion, it integrates seamlessly with all of your other Apple devices. So something that really intrigued me was the 3D camera that basically allows you to capture a scene in 3D and then re-watch it with the goggles later on. Obviously, this is a really cool feature if you have the goggles to film those scenes, but what I'm very excited for is the future, where we're able to use Apple's silicon to convert regular videos into this 3D space to see our memories in a whole different dimension. The cinema mode looks absolutely beautiful. It basically dims the room around you and displays this massive screen in front of you. And if you want to, you can display that massive screen over a lake in a beautiful environment that you've never even been to. And then to top it off, Disney showed up to tell us that using this technology, we can see their movies in a whole new dimension, which is kind of gimmicky, but Apple is really selling a huge vision here. This technology is not new to us, but if any company is going to pull off bringing this technology into the mainstream, it's Apple. And with the creativity of humans, I can't begin to imagine what amazing things we're going to be able to experience using this type of technology. I don't know if I could make it any more clear how excited I am for this product. Apple just keeps bringing us closer and closer to the future, and I love it. You're still gonna look stupid wearing it though, because the eyes are in the wrong place. They're a little bit too high up. Oh, and it cost $3,500, so there's that. Okay, I'm done. Bye.